Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Praise be to Allah, the Creator of mankind. Salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah, Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna sayyidina Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I bear witness that there is no deity but Allah. I bear witness that Muhammad is the servant and the messenger of Allah. I pray that Allah bless us all today as we gather to discuss an important topic for those who are married, have children, and marriage is a society, really. It is a small society that two people are in charge of running this society. And they have to run it in a way that they are partners. And that's the most difficult part. Why I say the most difficult part? Because usually any business that you see running by partners, the business would not last that much, because two people running one place, one show is not easy. So they end up breaking. But the marriage in particular is surviving. It is true that we look at the rate of divorce in our society here, and you can sense 50% of marriages end with divorce. Among Muslims, I remember when I was doing my dissertation in 1990, the rate of divorce amongst Muslims was about 20%. Today, the percentage or the rate is going higher to reach 30%. For one reason or another. Now, despite that, we can say that marriage survives, and in most cases is successful despite the issue of partnership. And the reason for that, as I go and check the different ayat of the Quran about marriage, you can find this ayah that says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. So, the meaning of that is, of the great science, miraculous science of the Creator, that He provided mankind in that خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا, that He provided us things of a similar nature. Min anfusina is a similar nature, not different nature, equal nature. And the term is azwaj. And azwaj, you can take it into masculine and or feminist, either way. So, az-zawja here, az-zawj or al-azwaj meant spouses, can be male or female. And then you find the two important components in marriage. جَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. That's the secret of success, that He made between the spouses, inside them, two things, the mawadda and the rahmah. What is the mawadda? The mawadda is the companionship, that's caring, gentleness, and rahmah. And rahmah, when we hear the word Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Rahman and Rahim, rahmah is a combination of both. So you have compassionate toward each other, and you have also this friendly, and on top of that, the word before is لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. He made the relationship between the husband and the wife a relationship of second, dwelling. Like they dwell in each other to become one, in two, and four. Both of them become one, but both of them are two, and each one of them, when we use the word, the Arabic word, is zawj. So I am a zawj, and zawj is two. So it means my wife is in me, and my wife is zawja, and zawja is two. So it means I am in her, and both of us are zawjain equal 4. So imagine 4 in 1. That was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the relationship of marriage as a relationship of unity, that the two become one in order to survive. Now, it is important to start defining the term marriage. How do we define marriage in Islam? So, of course, you will not find it in the Quran. And there is no problem with that, because even when you go to the fast, the Saum, you will not find much details of how to fast. The Salat also is mentioned in the Quran. You will not find details of how to do the Salat, so you have to go to the Sunnah. And when we talk about the Sunnah, we talk about the scholars, how the scholars understood the Sunnah. And you find this hadith now when we go to the Sunnah. And that's the most, visible, clear hadith that says, يَا مَعْشَرَ الشَّبَابِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ مِنْكُمُ الْبَاءَةَ فَلْيَتَزَوَّجْ. So here he's talking to the young people. And when we go to the scholars, you find that the scholars understood that al-shabab meant young men. But really, the same can be applied to women also at the same time. But the text says, young people, those of you who can afford, and this is the word al-istita'a, to get married, then they should get married. And this is the word fa, al-fa. Is al-fa for amr, like imperative, they should get married, and if they did not get married, are they entering into the area of sin? It's very difficult to understand the fa as for amr. Rather, it is for encouragement. Why? Because you have the ability here, istita'a. Whoever has the ability, was able, then they need to take marriage seriously. And here is where we go to the fuqaha and see what the scholars explain about marriage. So the scholars came up with a term that is not fard, because if you say fard like salat, really it's not going to work. So they interpreted the fa, the letter fa, then let them interpreted in 4 different ways. First, they avoided the term fard, and they came up with wajib. It is a duty. And what they said, if a young man, and again, if I said a young man, it does not mean I'm ruling out young women. But in particular, why man? Because it is when we use the term ability, and where we find that the men are providers somehow, as we see it in social life, but it can be different. Anyway, they said they introduced the term wajib to say that if a Muslim has the ability, financially well, physically well, and plus he developed the fear of running into sin, then marriage becomes a wajib for those. Now, the next term, they introduced the term mubah. And what is mubah? Mubah means if they want, they can do it. If they don't, it's fine. And this is for those who have the ability, they are financially well, but they are not really that much concerned of falling into sin, or committing sin, or adultery, or looking too much, browsing on the internet. They do not have this situation. Then they said, it's mubah. If they want to get married, they can get married. If they don't want to get married, then they don't need to get married. The third term is makruh. Imagine, many people, they don't know about that. Makruh is dislike. Is dislike to get married. And they said this is the case of the person who has the ability, but this person believes that he may abuse his wife. And if a person, in that case, they say it is dislike, they can get married, but it is preferably should not get married. Because there is here the sense of the issue of abuse. And this is, you find that Muslim scholars address the issue of Muslim abuse way, way back, hundreds of years. They address the issue of abuse, and they maintain that if a person fears that he may abuse his wife, then it is dislike, makruh, to get married. The fourth term is haram. And the haram, imagine, the marriage can be haram for a person. If this person has the ability, he's financially well, physically well, but he's sure he will abuse his wife. And then they said that it is haram for this person to get married. Because the issue of abuse is connected always with marriage. There are many marriages where we see the issue of abuse by both the husband and the wife. You know, we want to be fair here, that there are men who complain that they are abused by their wife. But when we go to statistics, and that's very important, that you find 90% of cases of abuse, it is the woman who is abused for one reason or another. And today, you know, the people who always put the issue of abuse with Islam and Muslims, they are wrong. Because in our society here, we hear about women, shelters for women, and imagine for how many years there were shelters for women. It's just a couple of years we started to think of shelter for Muslim women. So women abuse, wife abuse is started way back. It exists in every society. It has nothing to do with religion. And here is, you find that the scholars are agreeing that if a person has an abusive nature, then they should not approach marriage. Now, the most important issue in marriage is the issue of abuse. And you find that during the time of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, even though we know that riba is prohibited in Islam, riba is backbiting, and the riba was explained by Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as dhikruka akhaka bima yakrah, like to talk about someone thinks that he doesn't like or she doesn't like, that you talk about them in this manner. But this is a woman who came to Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and she asked him of a certain person who proposed. She asked him of two people. Of boyfriend, girlfriend is not acceptable, and in my opinion, it brings harm to the woman more than the man. So the Muslim woman needs to think carefully before involving herself in such situation. I know today there is quite a percentage of young Muslims are unfortunately running toward that, and we cannot do anything about that except raising our voice that this is something is not acceptable, and they need, those who are involved, they need to reconsider their situation. You come back later.
No. Somebody else says, maybe not allowed to marry
Ahlul Kitab? Well, if you go to, according to Al-Mawdudi prohibited marrying Ahlul Kitab. But the majority of Muslim scholars, they accepted that. They accepted that a Muslim man can marry a woman who is a Christian or a Jewish, and they consider that this is a responsibility really of the husband of how to manage, because interfaith is called interfaith marriage, and usually regular marriage has risk. The interfaith marriage has double risk. So I know that someone may say, well, there are people who marry Muslim, and it turned out that the Muslim is bad, and this and that. The Muslimah is bad, and there is a Muslim who married a Christian, and she is very good, and she is very considerate, or Jewish. We don't want really to go into this situation, who is good and who is bad. What we know that Islam left a small window for Muslims to be exposed to the people of the book, and gave the people of the book a special consideration. And one of these considerations, marrying a Muslim woman or a Jewish or a Christian. So the majority of scholars, they said, but some scholars prohibit it.
Why did they do the verse say you can't? That's
What?
the Quran, right? Is it for Quran that we allow to love?
Oh yeah, it is in the Quran.
He's asking why.
What?
Why?
Oh, why?
Because that's the verse, not the hadith. Just curious.
Well, I did say why.
No, just one.
I said that Islam left a small window open.
So why did Mawdudi prohibit it?
Why what?
What are the reasons for it?
Mawdudi? Mawdudi Maududi considered, since the Quran considered Christians and Jews as kuffar, and then the Quran said, do not marry the kuffar. So that's it. So Maududi has his own philosophy, and you can read about that. You can understand the opinion of Al-Maududi. You can read more about it. And you can read, there are many of books that speak about marriage from the people of the book and why this and why not. I remember when I wrote my dissertation about marriage, I interviewed Imam Basuni, and I put all his opinions, and Imam Basuni is of the opinion that a Muslim can marry a Muslim woman. That's it, period. And he would not officiate interfaith marriage. So I put his opinions. They have their opinions, those people. But how far we can go with their opinions versus a verse from the Quran that is very clear, and what we know that if Allah did not explain a situation, then we should not put ourselves in that to explain. Okay? So we take it as is, but who is responsible? It is the husband who is responsible. And of course, there is no doubt that this opened another issue here by Muslim women. And what I say here, that really Muslim woman is in a bad situation in America. American Muslim woman. Why? Because Muslim women can marry only a Muslim. And if we accept the ratio of 50-50, so if I have 50 men and 50 women, and if 20% of the 50 or 20 out of 50 married people of the book, so you have 30 men, on the other side you have 50 women. So there is an issue here. So you have an issue that the Muslims amongst themselves, they need to remember that. They need to remember maybe they are pushing a Muslim woman to go and marry a non-Muslim and say, how come so and so would marry and I cannot? Now convince them if you can. Okay. Now let's be see here. I have sister 1, 2. Okay. Any more? Anyone? So I will know. So I have 3. So before I go to the man, I have 3 here. I'll start.
Yeah, my name is Monica. I just embraced this platform about solidarity. But my question and actually concern is, as you say, we are in very bad position here in the United States because we are many nations in this country. And then, if one of the new Muslim that is not born in the Middle East, it's just Spanish like this. Once you meet somebody, say a Christian, because that's the background we have. Meet a Christian. It came on there because this is that the Islam said that you should not marry another person for the book. So my question is, what is the law? The law of God. Because I love Allah. And I think, I feel like that would be kind of discrimination because that's what I'm feeling right now as a Muslim in my workplace. And I want to be free, but nobody discriminate me because I'm a Muslim and my daughter is already going to school. But that's the beginning to open Islam to every nation. Because if they see me as now that she's Muslim, she cannot talk to me because I'm a Christian, or she can, I want to understand how, not for myself, because I already embrace Islam, I love it, I know who is Allah, but how I make this image of the woman, Islamic woman, from the rest of the world. I'm a business person, and I want to bring this to the world. without this project, my position as an Islamic woman. How I can do it?
If I tell you how, I may not give you the right answer, but I'll tell you, sister. You are facing the most challenging time of your life because you mentioned it's only 4 months and you love Allah. Okay? Now, to understand how to put your relationship with Allah and what you believe are the teachings of Allah, it will take you time. You cannot in 4 months jump and be a saint in 4 months. So, I want you to be realistic more than anything else and to enter into Islam step by step until you understand fully your relationship with Allah versus the teachings of Allah. Because when we say, these are the teachings of Islam, so we say, these are the teachings of Allah, right? How do you understand now to differentiate between your love for Allah that's very difficult to be defined in relationship to the teachings of Islam? And you will not be able to do that. You are a professional woman and you know how to take time for training, learning, everything. So you take your time and do your best, okay, until you are certain that your love of Allah matches the teachings of Allah which you find it today in the Quran and the Sunnah. And I tell you, every time you struggle with one issue, you can talk. You can talk to me, you can talk to my wife. We both will give you the best answer. But right now, like to give you general answer, and then I tell you how your love of Allah should be number one, and you should be obedient to the teachings of Allah, and you do this. No, we will not say that. And I will say that in general, that you need to struggle with your life until you reach the right person. But if you have a particular issue, I'll be glad to help. That's good. Then we have.
My name is Fatima. I just had a follow-up question to clarify what the feedback is. Because just knowing today, I have Christian friends, and I find that the distinction is that a lot of them believe that Jesus is God. And so I'm wondering if when the director that Muslims marry people that most of that Christians and Jews who have the same belief that there's God as opposed to any other being, or is it that they can marry even Christians who worship Jesus?
Yeah, according to the ayah of the Quran, okay, a Muslim is allowed to marry a woman who is a Christian or a Jew without any restrictions. So, if we want to jump in and put restrictions, we can. I'm not saying no, but I'm telling you that the majority of scholars accepted it without restrictions. Some entered into it with restrictions. And they said what you said. They said, how can we do this? And then those who asked me about Mawdudi, I did say Mawdudi, he considered them kuffar, period. He doesn't want to talk more than that. So those who want to follow this opinion, you think I will go against them? I will not. It's up to them. But in no way, and this is the critical part, a Muslim is marrying a Christian, and then someone who believes that those are foreign and not even. So they go beyond the limit by saying the relationship is zina. And if they have a child, it's a child of zina. Who are we to start heading into this direction? Yes. I said 3, then I go here, then I can come. It's fine.
Okay. Marshall, and I've been in the for 2 months.
You have to raise your voice a little bit.
So my question is, if there's people are already married and one as a female will accept Islam and the husband does not, what are your views on that?
Well, you have moderate opinion to say that the marriage remain exists because of the circumstances now. And we don't want Islam to bring misery to the wife. If the wife agreed and accepted her husband as is, they can continue as married. Okay? So, the point here, that's the point I say, that we don't want Islam to cause misery to a wife by telling her, oh, you accepted Islam, the dear price you're going to pay now, you cannot live with this man. He said, no, you continue until you believe that this marriage should discontinue, then it's up to you. So we don't want to come and say, oh, because of Islam, that the marriage is gone. No, we want the wife to make this decision, but not the religion. Yes. Now here, how many from the men? So I know. So you have only one. Okay, then I'll come back.
It sounds from what I've seen, the Qadi or the judge that can determine a decision on an issue or fatwa, right, is qualified to do those decisions. And many of us among humanity who are not qualified because of lack of preparation and understanding, because the people prepared still have no wisdom. Some people say things that they don't even know what they're talking about, because they learn a lot in books. But the one who makes a decision that is binding on the community is someone who can really present a balanced view of a wide amount of instances that relate to an issue in a prudent way, because Islam is about wisdom and prudence. Some people have limited their decisions based on their certain schools or groups or movements that have popped up in the history of Islam. And they have also done good or damage to the Muslim relationship with human beings, and even among themselves, because of the closed-mindedness as far as looking at things more ample in scope. And that's a big issue. So don't be so quick in coming to a decision based on conjecture. What Quran says, avoid conjecture, because conjecture in the majority of the cases is wrong. And there's a lot of conjecture that's being communicated among humanity. Imagine us getting into conjecture and Rasulullah saying that we would commit the same mistakes as the Yahud and Nasara. So let us beware that we don't commit the same mistakes as the Yahud and Nasara.
Some because you don't want to
Yes,
project them in this way, so we won't be in trouble. Okay, now I know that the sister was, and who else from this group here? Raise your hand. So I have two. Okay, and I know my wife, she wants to say something. We give her to begin.
Well, my question is,
So I have the two sisters. You can start.
so my question is like, it's more like a comment towards
Yeah.
Yeshua. I find like I was born and raised here, and my parents struggled so much.
You can stand up and so your voice can.
So
it's more like a comment.
Yes,
So,
go ahead.
You're marrying someone who's not Muslim. It's already hard enough to raise Muslim kids in this society, and when the two parents are both Muslim, there's so many things that are hard to inculcate when you're not in a Muslim environment. So imagine if you're the only Muslim parent versus the other one that's not Muslim, and also think that about how it's just food for thought. They could bring up so much. I find that things that have to change within the Muslim community when it comes to marriage. And, people are not open to other ethnic groups. Parents putting so many restrictions. Or a lot of Muslim men who just bring their wives from abroad and don't want to. For every man who will marry either a Jewish or a Christian, or will bring their wives from quote unquote back home, that's a girl here that won't get married. And I don't know, I find there's so many issues. Like, men are afraid of educated women, men are afraid of, I just have so many things to say, but anyway, I'd like maybe we could elaborate on this, this whole thing about parents not being open to other cultures, and then, men from abroad just wanting someone who would be like their mom, who has zero ambition, who has very little education. And it's a big problem because the girls here are, most of them are accomplished, religious,
I tell you that I had a couple of issues like that. And I ended up helping the couple. And provided that I can see that the husband is really qualified. And I had a situation that the couple came to me and they said the father wants the husband from the same culture. No? And he's unable to produce someone to the wife, to his daughter. But he said, I will not agree on any other. It has to be this way. So the couple came to me, and I'm not here teaching anyone, and said, look, we love each other. We want to get married. The boy from totally different country. And let me make it clear, it is one of them Arab, one of them not Arab. So it was a big situation. And so what I did, I asked the young lady about her age. She mentioned 25, around 25. I said, okay, leave it. Even though it's not my job, I'm not supposed to get into that. So I went to the father and I told him that your daughter came and this and that. And he said, yes, I will not agree to a marriage. It has to be this same as my culture. He said, okay, I agree with you. Go and get someone. He said, I can't find. I said, okay, if you can't find and your daughter reached that age and you cannot find her, you want someone who she can say, okay, I agree to this man, then you gotta leave her alone. And if you don't, I will help her. I will do the marriage. So I used this strategy to put pressure on the parents. Okay? And it worked. They finally agreed. So I managed to bring them together and do the marriage. And the father, he said, yeah, okay, I agree, but I'm not going to be in her marriage. I said, okay, I'll do the marriage in my house. I just want you to come to the house and be the wakil. And after thinking, yeah, he agreed. Then I said, it's not gonna be good for you to come to my house and we do the marriage in my house. The marriage should be in your house. And you can invite a couple of people of your relatives and this and that. So I ended up doing the marriage there. Yes, some of the problems, and I know another case that the daughter went against the wish of her father, and she married a person who's from different community, same country, different community. And 15 years, however, the father did not talk to his daughter 10 years. Yeah? Yeah, I can remember. He would not talk to his daughter for 10 years until, like, countless people interfered and said, come and you should come and see your grandchild. And the mother became like the victim. It is a problem. I don't know how to solve it, but each young lady or young man, they need to come up with a solution and nothing else. If you ask me, do I agree? It doesn't matter whether I agree or not. It is a problem in the society. Among Muslims, it is a problem. But it started to disappear. And I tell you, this year and last year, the number of marriages I did between two different communities is growing up. And now I see marriages between two different communities I never thought. Like the groom Pakistani or the groom Egyptian and the wife is Pakistani. Or the husband is Pakistani and the wife is Egyptian. I haven't seen like that. Now it is coming. And between, like, these are, we consider them, these are odd communities. But they are coming. And between, Afro-American and white, yes, same thing, the percentage is growing also as well. So it will take time for people to integrate into the society and stop looking in this way that I want to be of this nationality or that nationality.
Assalamu alaikum. We talk a lot about the rights of women in Islam and the men also, but we know that marriage is half of our deen, so that means there are
marriage is what?
Half of our deen.
Half
of our deen.
Oh yeah.
So that means there are responsibilities.
Yes.
So if you can talk maybe a little briefly about what's the role of the women in the marriage and the role of the men. And more specifically, some sisters wanted to know regarding the financial contribution of women.
I tell you, each couple vary. In no way you can put one standard for all marriages. And I'll give you this example here. And that's what I said at the beginning about the issue of equality. And I did mention that the man is given certain things that sometimes man abuse these things that Allah gave them. But listen, look at this case. A couple get married, and then they have the first child, and both of them are working, and then they have tough time, putting the child in daycare, this and that. So, 3-4 months, they started to complain that we are concerned about the child. And then they started to think, what is the best way? And they both agreed that one of them need to take care of the child or the baby, and the other one need to work. So now here is a husband and wife debating which one of them should quit work. So who can help? Who do you think should quit work?
Whoever makes less.
Huh?
Whoever makes less.
That's right. See? So when we address this issue, the answer will come, oh, the woman. I said, no, it has to go with the economy here. It's not the issue of men and women when it comes to money. And in this case, the woman, the wife, was making money more than the husband. So the husband said, I'll give up, I'll take care of the baby, I'll cook, I'll clean, and you go and work. You bring food and I'll take care. So sometimes it is very difficult to pinpoint a certain standard of how. But I'll tell you, the best way is for the husband and the wife is to sit together and make sense and make a decision. And if they were not able, then they need to consult others. If they were not able to make the best decision about that, then they need to consult until they find the right solution. Okay. Think it's time to end or not? What time we should stop? It's until 4 or 4:30?
We have until 4:15. We have until 5.
Until 5?
Yeah, but I mean, so if people want to keep
I
talking,
didn't
that's
know
fine.
until 5.
Well, we usually have a little bit of time.
Okay, so now let's go here. How many they need to ask? So I have 1 and I have 2. Okay, then I move.
So I can be clear with my question.
Okay, if you can stand up so I can hear your voice.
I was a bit of what Abel said was that, I guess in your experience, do you think that there is maybe not an understanding of what marriage is, if it's what that means for it to happen to be, what it means to have, I guess, the result of a marriage in Islam, and do you find that that's sort of the experience throughout, I guess, all of the people you've spoken with, and maybe, in my view, I sort of see it as if it's part of happy being. I look back to the time of the Prophet, and it seemed very clear that they were bringing all of these tribes together and sort of disintegrating all of that and becoming one thin basic faith and having babies and growing the Ummah that way. Do you think that's sort of not as clear today, or do you think that people maybe just following like how I'm getting married and I'm kind of like this, and maybe just sort of like is there like more faith desires or is their own desires as opposed to what sort of Islam maybe like encouraging them to do?
But you need to look at marriage in both ways. One side of it is fun, one side of it is family. Okay? Because Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he asked a young man, he said to him, "Are you married?" And the man said no. And then he said to him, "Hala jariyatan tula'ibuha wa tula'ib." He said, go and find a young woman for marriage, so that you can play with her and she play with you. He did not mention about children. Okay. But there is one side of it one side, and if you said half of it marriage or half of it deen, okay, half deen, half fun. Okay? So let's go to the half of the deen here is to have society and all these to have children, and if I manage to introduce healthy children to the society, I'm having a healthy society. Okay? But half of it, deen has nothing to do with it, where the couple can involve themselves in fun situation, to play, to whatever, and this is considered as the other half of the deen. And even Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, روّح القلوب ساعة بعد ساعة. Said, you know, refresh the hearts 1 hour after 1 hour. It means one hour for deen, 1 hour for fun. And if you look at the 5-time prayers, you know, I would say 5 times prayers if each prayer 15 minutes. So you have 1 hour and 15 minutes only. And what should we do with the rest? So that's where we say Islam is a way of life. Yeah. To live your life according to the ethics of Islam is considered also. But the marriage relationship, if you want to confine it only to the issue of children, then I'll tell you, here is now a couple get married, and they were not able to have children. So what we should tell them, the concept of marriage really is to bring children. If you cannot bring children, then go ahead with your life. No, say no. And the couple may tell him, we love each other beyond the issue of having children. So, what you need to be fair when you talk about marriage. If you want to talk only about children, that's part of it, but there is part of it also that the couple can be engaged in romantic relationship and expressing love. This was encouraged by Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the bottom line here, the woman is not a machine to produce children. Okay, just I think you let us produce children and that's it. No, it's more than that. There is mawaddah and there is second mawaddah and rahmah, as I explained in the beginning. So now this part here we have 1 and 1. Okay. Now what should I do? Okay, you can. Fine. Yes. You are which grade? Okay, I'm proud of you that you are here today because I don't see young. Young. You are the youngest one.
So I am grade 6 for the last year and the discussion is based on the range of energies and say things. Her mother has a son and then one of her really good friends, she has a daughter and the mother says, oh mashallah, I have a son and they want to arrange a marriage for them. And they meet each other and they know that they could possibly get married one day. What would be the most pure and slimming way of that getting to know each other? Would they meet each other in mosque?
So there are 2 thoughts. Your question has 2 thoughts, right? Or 1 thought. Is it only the end or the beginning? Because in the beginning we talk about arrangement, and then we move into meeting in the cafe. So two parts. Huh? 2 parts, right? Okay. So is arranged marriage okay? That's your question. And can I meet with that person in the cafe? 2 or 1? 2 questions or 1 question? So I know what to do. Okay. Arranged marriage need to be defined. Arranged marriage can be understood in two different ways. The way that all communities used to do, where the husband and the wife do not see each other except during the wedding feast. And there is arranged marriage by way of introduction. Okay. So the first one, no one talk about because it's not accepted. But arranged marriage, I was married through that way. And I'm proud of that. I did not say, oh, it was old-fashioned. No. Because of the nature of my work, so I told my mother, go and find me someone who is qualified, and she started to go here and there until we get to my wife here. And I don't see any problem with that because we sat down together, we started to talk, and we had time coming, I will tell you, almost every day I come to the house. And we talk until, we finalize the thing. I don't see any problem with that. Sitting down and someone introduced someone to you. First, you have to go through the screening. And that's what we did. We have 5 daughters. My wife and I, we have 5 daughters and 2 boys. And we do our work. Our daughter will do her work. We do the screening. And the screening is something that the girl cannot discover through communication. So we do the screening, we make sure that the person is not involved in drugs, in alcohol. We look at the situation of education, what is the level of education, the grades, and that. So if we find that this person is good as a candidate, then we leave the rest to the girl. And the girl, if she wants, you can sit down. I did raise this issue in the beginning. You come to the masjid, there is a cafe here, you want to sit and you talk. Is your mother here? Oh yeah, this is your mother. Okay, she's an expert. So mother can sit, you can be together. There's nothing wrong if your mother sit down as just to observe, not to say anything, and you want to talk, you talk. But I already mentioned before about the issue of love and seeing the world in your eyes and all these things. So we said that this issue we put it aside in the beginning, okay? But there is nothing wrong to discover each other and find that there is chemistry and harmony and all these things so that you can move to the next step. Okay? All right. And if you want to come here, you can come here.
That's okay. I wrote a paper also about selection of spouses in my school. I graduated from National University. What I want to, from my own experience, is the brothers who were non-Muslim. And first of all, the men and the women, they have to be both of them fearing God and living with each other and thinking of this Muslim brother and this Muslim sister and how you work together, how you live without harming each other. And
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة.
I want to just well, the other thing after both husband and wife are really into Islamic spirit, and the man is the example, he set an example for his wife, whether she is convert or non-Muslim, in order to raise a Muslim family, which is, that's where the area, the gray area, which is my concern of this kind of marriages, the end of these marriages, where you have in Obama's Muslim father and you have Steve Jobs of Syrian father, and actually there is so many, and I could find some kids, if you go Google and you see so many kids after divorce of such marriages, the kids end up going back to the church with their mother. So in order, we have to discuss this issue where we are losing family and children, and even Muslim family, as she said, they have enough time keeping their kids within the Islamic environment and taking them away from drugs and SEX and all kinds of different things in this society. And we take all the good things from the society, but we have to really keep going and educating ourselves and trying to be an example for them and addressing this issue. So the spirit of Islam, which is everyone is taking their rights. The woman has their right without the man giving it to her, because it's Allah who gave it to her. She should be honored, respected. She is the one who entrusted to bring up the children and to raise them accordingly. And that's why we have to choose and look for the right wife to be the center of our family unit. So what we are doing as mothers, we have to raise those boys and girls. That's where you start to teach them about both their rights. The boys have to keep their hand in their pocket and go against their sisters. That's from this beginning. It starts from every house. How to raise boys and girls and how to treat them equally and let them educate them about everything in Islam without being forced to do it. They have to get it into their system with love, loving Allah. That's what makes it different. You cannot, in this country, you cannot make girls cover her hair because she has to first, my 5 girls, I never told one of them to cover her hair. Not me, not my husband. But what we did, we teach them about Islam and they know it and they choose and take the decision. When we take decisions, we support them for what is good and what is right in this society. That's it.
So let me conclude here because really I never planned to stay up because I have to leave and I have to be way at 5 o'clock. So what is the best thing in marriage between the couple is to understand their weaknesses and their strengths. That's the best marriage or successful marriage is each one of them need to understand the good quality in each one of them. So the husband needs to discover the good qualities in the wife and the weaknesses, and the wife will discover the good qualities in the husband and the weaknesses, and put the good qualities on the top And the success, at the end, we say success comes from Allah. So, inshallah, there will be time we can come and continue talking about that. Assalamu alaikum.